I do have one last question that I think hopefully everyone can answer in a different way. But throughout the presentation, Jan, Chris, TeKisha talked about the different skill set that students got through studying abroad experience, right? So leadership, professional development. And so for the students, I want to ask you, what is maybe one skill that you gained during your pre-departure or during the actual study abroad experience that you brought back to your undergraduate experience? And then for our instructors and study abroad trip leaders, what have you seen? What are skills or things that you witness students go through either during or post that you're like, wow, that's a great growth opportunity that you saw in a student? And anyone that would like to go, I'd love to hear something from everyone.
Oh, there are so many times when I've seen students grow and just change their way of thinking about themselves and about the world. So many ways, but maybe I can just choose one in particular. Oh gosh, I don't even know which one to talk about. There was a case of a student who was an HDFS major who was a little bit younger. She was one of the younger participants, and she was a little bit timid, I think, very reserved and a little unsure of herself, even in her coursework. And she applied for the trip, and I included her in the program. And we had something happen. She was working at the orphanage for children with disabilities. And, in South Africa, the children that we work with are mostly HIV positive, and the children at that particular orphanage were not in good health. And we knew that when we went in, but it had never occurred to me that a child might die during the trip. And one morning, our students showed up to work, and one of the toddlers had passed away. He had not been in good health. It wasn't a surprise, and yet it was, and I felt that I hadn't really prepared my students for that. And here we have the student who's the youngest and maybe the most unsure of herself on the trip. And she just sort of took everyone in hand. She said, guys, I grew up on a farm, and this is part of the circle of life. And what we need to do is we need to think about the needs of the children who are here, who need to be fed and bathed, and we need to think about how to help the staff and have everybody get back on the schedule today and have a typical day so all the other residents here feel secure. And she just sort of led our own group with her words, as well as the staff and the other kids, at the orphanage, in how do we cope with death as a part of cycle of life, and how do we support everybody here. And it was just amazing for me to see that in a couple of weeks' time, she was able to have that confidence and take that leadership. And when we've been back, she has done other internships. And if you meet her on the quad, she is standing tall and she is looking people in the eye and just has so much confidence in herself and now her field of study that she's graduated. Just one story. There's so many.
Yeah, I can go next. So when I think about the skills that students take away, the first thing that came to mind is a soft skill that you may not think you're going to get when you go in. And I think it's something that everyone takes away, even us trip leaders, and you build on it every time you go somewhere new. And that skill is perspective taking. And it happens on both the micro and the macro level, right? So as a relationship scholar, I watch people as they build their relationships, and you go on this trip with 15 to 40 other strangers who you live with 24/7, and everything is great for the first week or so. And then about, 8-9 days in, you start getting snippy. And on day 13, everybody's fighting, right? So at a micro level, watching the students navigate those relationships with one another was interesting in two ways. And it intertwines with the macro level perspective taking, which is linked with culture and globalism, and the perspectives that we have as Americans, regardless of your social position in America, and how that may differ from the perspective that you have as an American in another country. And so in particular in South Africa, we often had relatively diverse student groups, and watching them have discussions about race relations in America, and then having those same discussions about race relations in South Africa, which also has a history of segregation, and watching them have those disputes among themselves, right? So we would have students who were divided, and Jan was a great example to watch as a leader, as she really sat back and let the students have it out. Nothing, as long as it was respectful, but watching students navigate those difficult conversations and learn to understand other people's perspectives. And even when they did not understand, they learned to empathize a little bit and to just, coexist with others. Watching the transformation in the perspective taking that the students had from day 0 to day 21 was amazing. And it's something that you continue to build on throughout life. But going to another country really initiates that, and it speeds up that process, because you're forced, if you're going to live there short term or long term and enjoy it, you are forced to learn to look at things from other people's perspectives, from other cultural perspectives, and to respect and honor those perspectives as well, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah, and I would just extend off that saying, the perspective taking really is something phenomenal to see from the before and after the trips, from even engaging in the conversations we have, at the airport from leaving, to the conversations we're having at the airport when we're coming back. There's a marked difference at times, and not just the perspective taking within the culture there, but also, as I think TeKisha touched on, conflict resolution and things within the houses, things with other students. And I think some of these experiences maybe students didn't necessarily expect to encounter with one another, but working through it, and for us to be able to provide that space, I think really helps facilitate that kind of growth.
I might chime in once more. From the pre-departure course through the trip and back home, the difference you see in the comfort level of students in talking about seeing things through a different lens, that perspective taking, about hard topics to talk about in our courses, health disparities, social justice, racism, classism, all of these things. I feel that when students start the pre-departure course, they may be a little bit shocked about what we're going to discuss. And I know that people are uncomfortable with that. By the time we come home, we have found a common language and respect for one another's lived experiences when we do that. And I have students email me long after they've left university and they're in their careers with a story about what they learned to do in that sense. How to have respect for others and think through someone else's lens has really helped them in their careers. I've known students that have changed majors or changed tracks for plans for graduate school when they've been on the trip and had experience in one area or another, and have come back and said, but now this is what's meaningful to me. So yeah, Andrea, please go ahead.
For me, I think like some of the skills that I learned that I can't, I guess, hone into one word, that I guess just kind of goes with my trip, was I learned like a lot about privilege and my place in the world, and how that impacts people or the people around me. And sort of, I also learned like power dynamic and how to like enter a room and not take up the space so much. I know one of the big things I feel like Jan was trying to teach us in the pre-course was that, we weren't going over there to save Africa. We weren't going over there to sort of use the American way, and like we were there to like learn their way and learn about their culture. So like I feel like what my trip helped me learn was a lot of like personal skills that I don't think I would have gotten if I did like an internship here, whereas I did the internship over there. And like I learned so much about myself, and like, it was a very difficult trip because it was it really put me out of my comfort zone, and it made me realize that I have privileges and that I haven't realized all that I have and all that I take for granted. But yeah.
I will just add briefly that, one thing that we always tell the students is you never grow within your comfort zone, and that, there's going to be moments where you feel uncomfortable and you want to fight, flight, or flee, but you need to just like sit there and feel that discomfort and allow yourself to grow from it. And going into the trip with that perspective and just knowing that you're going to be uncomfortable, it doesn't make it better once you are there, but you know that it's something that you're going to experience and that it's important to kind of sit through that a little bit. So just ditto everything that everyone has said already.
I feel like all of us can say that we probably use our phones or social media a lot more than we feel like we should. And when you go on study abroad trips, you may not be in a place where social media and phone usage, I don't want to say is not accessible, but you're not going to have a signal to get on Snapchat or to get on Twitter or anything like that. And so for the 2 to 3 weeks that I was gone, I was not on social media. I couldn't really call anyone. There was a point in time where we spent a couple days in the Sahara Desert at an oasis. And so we literally had no technology usage at all. So I would say one of my biggest takeaways is how I'm able to limit myself with social media usage and technology usage, and sometimes just giving myself a break, and that it is doable.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with what everyone has said. So I'll be short and quick, but I think that like independence is huge, and like not really going along, like go off the beaten track. You don't always have to do, what the roommates are doing. You can go sit at a coffee shop by yourself and, learn this corner of Italy, and just see things for yourself. And, you take that into Champagne too. If people are doing one thing, you don't have to do it, and you can go and do your own thing, and that'll help you grow. And I think that that's the most important part, of learning in your trip and then coming back to campus.
When you go study abroad, this is something that Jan has in her course, and different instructors have different perspectives, but Jan has an assignment where all the students keep a daily journal throughout the process of the course, and it's supposed to start during the pre-departure course, but sometimes people only start once they're actually where they are. But regardless of whether that's an assignment or not, it's a great way to document your journey and to have those memories. We lose our camera sometimes, you could lose your phone on the way back, you might lose those pictures, but if you have those memories written down somewhere on either in a hard notebook or on a laptop and backed up on, a cloud service somewhere, that's a great way to always be able to look back and remember those experiences. And even without pictures, those words will trigger those memories for you to relive over and over, and for you to be able to share with other people.
Give it a try. Find a destination in the world that you would like to learn something more about, that you would like to experience, and give study abroad a try. You won't be sorry. It'll change you. It'll make you a stronger person.